Hello, what is up, DCS crew? Today's an interesting look at a slicey duo from Monterey Bay Knives. This tale of two knives was brought to you in part by the Apex Pass Around as well as Monterey Bay Knives. I'd like to give a huge shout out to them both. And just as a brief disclaimer, this isn't going to be a video about which one is better, like the Kaiser Gemini clip I did a while back. This is really more of my impressions of the two and thoughts that I have on these knives based on my time with both of them, both in the pocket, and just comparing the two to what I actually have in my current stable. So keeping that in mind, go ahead and let the intro run and we will get back to you all in a moment. Welcome back, guys. So today's knife duo was designed by a gentleman named Gerry McGinnis, and it was offered up by Monterey Bay Knives out of California. It's currently out now, presently, as of the date of this video. Okay, so now MBK has really made a name for themselves when it comes to talking about basically taking custom designs and knives that are really nice, but they have seemingly intangible price tags, and providing updated materials, increasing production and cutting overall knife costs. Now, in doing so, they've been able to take one of Gerry's designs that recently sold at I want to say, what was it, Blade Show in Atlanta? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where it was, that it sold for close to $2,000. And in turn, they created two options for an awesome hard use folder with quality materials and blade steel at around the $225 price point. Now, I say around the $225 price point because pricing is always subject to change depending on whether they have sales and whatnot. So and in case you were wondering, having carried both, I do have a preference between the two. Aesthetically, I really like the carbon fiber version. But as far as for use, I really do feel that the titanium model, really shines. And that's going to be the honest truth. So that being said, let me go ahead and take these here, put these to the side, which, by the way, awesome little cleaning cloth here from MBK with their logo. I freaking love that logo, by the way. And the pouch that comes with both. You can actually slip both in here with the cleaning cloth. And it's great to go ahead and take with you on flights or if you're on trips, that sort of thing. It's really great to have. And it's nice to know that, the knives from Monterey Bay Knives all come with that. Well, they have so far. So, okay, let me go ahead and position these two here. And as you can see, this is the carbon fiber version. This is the titanium version. Let's go ahead and see how they stack up with some of the other knives that I currently have nearby and that I've been carrying recently. Okay, so I'll go ahead and position these two here so you can go ahead and see them. And then just place, I guess, the third one right there in the middle. So we'll start with one that is finally in my hands. I was so psyched to get this one during Black Friday. Somebody was unloading one at a great price, and I'm like, okay, I think it's about time for me to go ahead and pick one up. This is the Kaiser T1, arguably one of Kaiser's best designs. I believe it's from a gentleman named Uli Hinnicky. I really hope I did not butcher that last name. That's the Kaiser T1. All right, this one right here is a blade that has a very similar blade shape, but it's a little smaller. It's offered by US-based Benchmade Knife Company. This is the Benchmade North Fork. Okay, this is the Spyderco Dragonfly. Awesome little office EDC staple, a great backup knife, and sometimes even just a great standard knife. Extremely slicey, deceptively ergonomic in the hand. This one is one that really surprised me. This is the SOG Terminus XR S35VN steel. Fantastic value. I think that one's going for like about $89.95 right now. This is a nice little budget option to carry around. Also pretty ergonomic compared to the Dragonfly, but not quite because you're saving in cost and materials. This is the Chinese Kershaw Shuffle number 2. This is the Tonto blade with a black washed blade and kind of a green, an olive green GFN handle. Okay, let's see here. And this is the Adam Purvis designed Best Tech Texel in Jade G10. Beautiful knife, by the way. Look at that. Okay. And last but not least, for size comparison, the Ontario Knife Company Rat number 1. It is actually slightly bigger than both, as you can see right here. So let me go and take that out of the way. Okay, now, that being said, let's get the specs out of the way and talk about how these two knives fare with the custom design. So the dimensions on both are pretty much going to be the same with the exception of one small minor detail. So let's go ahead and I'll keep both of these out here so you can see what I'm talking about, okay? This one is the carbon fiber, by the way. That happens to be the one on the bottom. Okay, so the overall length on these two is going to be 7 3/4 inches, which is you know, it's a good you know, size. I want to say it's probably towards the upper portion of what I typically carry. The blade length on these is 3.5 inches, a little bit less than 3 1/4. I want to say 3.2 if you go right from where it's sharpened here at the choil to the tip of the knife. That's the usable portion of the knife. Now the handle length is at 4 1/4 inches, and the blade thickness is 0.16 behind the edge. Okay, the material on this, you will find that it is not present on the blade itself. In fact, the only thing that's on the sides of the blade, and this is on the clip side, is the MBK logo. The back on the spine, you're gonna have McGinnis on the spine, which I think is really cool. It's something that MBK does a lot with their knives. Kind of reminds me of the Ray Laconical designs, but the blade steel on this one is Bowler M390 steel, so that's something to consider. Now, it is a stone washed finish, so it's a nice working finish. I like that a lot because if this was really designed for hard use, which, I mean, judging by the construction on this one, it really does feel like that. You know, it's nice to know that you can have a blade that can really put some work in. You can, you know, wash it up, you can sharpen it up and put it right back in your pocket, and it would look like it hasn't been used yet. So I really like that a lot. I'm a big fan of the stone wash finish, actually a little bit more than the satin blades. So, you know, just my 2 cents. Now, for the handle material, like I said before, the two versions that are currently available are titanium and carbon fiber, okay? And both of them have portal holes just for, I don't know if not just for style, but just you know, to kind of shed just a little bit more weight off of each one. Okay, now the backspacer itself is also titanium, and you see that on both the full titanium, and you don't see it on the carbon fiber model. In fact, this one, I believe, I mean, it does feel, I don't know if that one's carbon fiber or not. I'm gonna be honest, I'm pretty sure that's just like standard G10, but then again, I would have to take it completely down to just go ahead and check that, but and I haven't yet, I'm gonna be honest. So the knives themselves are made by a small batch distributor that Monterey Bay Knives has been beginning to use a little bit more out of China. It's they mention it's not Kaiser, it's not Riet or Rate. It's not We Knives, which happens to be the one that's doing the OEM work for a lot of you know, mid-tech style designers. They didn't really want to disclose who it is, but it's really just like a smaller company that is doing the OEM work on this, which is nice because number one, they've been using them a little bit more lately, and I mean, if it's indicative to, you know, these models and some of the models that I've reviewed in the past, you know, whoever they're sending it to go ahead and do this is really taking the time to get the knives done right. And I mean, they should, because if you're, you know, if you're paying a hefty price tag for something that's being imported, You know, yes, it's not a custom, but it's something that is worth a pretty penny. I mean, you're looking at $225 a piece here. You want to make sure that, you know, the fit and finish is good. I mean, that's not exactly something that the working man can just easily throw away. I mean, you know, I'm an office guy, and you know, I make a decent paycheck, but even at that, $225, let's just say that I don't want to tell my girlfriend I spent $225 on a knife, let alone $450 for both of the knives that you see in here in front of you. So, you know, just putting it out there. So, you know, talking about that, let's get into the custom for a second. Okay. Now, for this particular knife, the Sprocket. Okay. The Gerry McGinnis does have a custom version of this knife, the Sprocket, and the versions that I've seen from Gerry are typically the same ergos, but they do have a few small changes. So the custom is typically built as a liner lock, which obviously these two are not. These are frame locks, and I've seen them in both carbon fiber and in like a reddish micarta. Now those aren't the only two that he's done, but you know, those are the two that I've actually seen. And both of the versions, though, I've seen they come in CPM 154V steel. Now, if you know your steels, you probably already just repeated that out loud, that you've heard of CPM 154, but not CPM 154V, and you'd be right. Now, the thing is, when they were initially working on the powdered steel version of 154CM, which is typically what Benchmade was using on their Reptilian series prior to switching to S30V, Crucible Powder Metallurgy, which is, you know, CPM, they tried using vanadium when they were developing CPM 154, since the added vanadium would form harder carbides that would help with wear resistance. And you know, that's a pretty good thing when you're looking for steel that will be a little bit more resistant to corrosion and work a little bit harder, be a little bit tougher for knives that you needed to use for, you know, tougher work. In the end, though, Crucible actually ended up mass producing the version of the steel without vanadium, but there were still batches that contained it. So in the end, what they ended up doing was really just mass producing CPM 154. And in similarity, it's said to be closest to RWL 34, which if you've been watching the channel, is actually the steel that was used on the Alliance Designs Scout from Pat Hammond that I reviewed a while back. So if you want to hear a little bit about RWL 34, feel free to go ahead and check out that video. Okay, so now that we have that knife nerds lesson out of the way, let's talk about the production model produced by MBK. So as I mentioned earlier, okay, the knife is produced in two handle options, which are titanium and carbon fiber. So if you opt for the carbon fiber version, you save about 3/4 of an ounce, okay? And that makes it come out to, I believe, about 3.5 ounces, as opposed to 4.3 ounces for the titanium version. It's not a huge difference. I mean, they're both carryable, but it's enough to where you do feel it in the pocket. Okay, so I do want to let you know about that, okay? But keep in mind, both options do come with the stonewashed M390 blade and the Gerry's signature titanium pocket clip. Okay, and I'll talk about that in a second. Okay, and you're actually going to see this on his customs as well. Now, believe it or not, it actually works for me, as when I'm opening the knife, I find that my my ring finger, okay, it tends to rest on the portion of the clip that curves. Okay, which it just feels natural to me. So it's like, if I could, I'm gonna have to do it from this way. But when I'm opening the knife, okay, and if you see what is on the other side, so you can kind of see exactly how I am gripping the knife to open it. What happens is my pinky finger, well, not my pinky, but my ring finger it basically rests right here on where this curve is, and this provides a nice little shelf for me to be able to go ahead and provide some resistance when I'm flicking open that knife. So I'm not really sure if I explained that right, but I hope so. And I'm sorry, Gerry. I mean, but that was just something that I figured that I just go ahead and talk about real quick. It's something I actually really like about the clip, which is weird. So, oh, speaking of clip, if you notice on both of these versions, it is tapped for right hand tip up carry. I am sorry, lefties, you guys. Maybe they'll come out with a lefty version. I know Ray Laconico has a part in Monterey Bay Knives, and he does have lefty models that he has produced specifically for his customers. So depending on how well this sells, you may actually see maybe an alternate version of it, maybe a lefty version in the future. So I mean, you never know. So now aside from that, you do have you know, with the back spacers that I did not mention before, okay, one being titanium and one being, I'm assuming, either G10 or the carbon fiber, they've actually been tapped completely. If you can see here, here is the lanyard hole, and it's actually been tapped completely through the back spacer out the outside for access to a lanyard if you choose to have that sort of thing. You know, lanyards are not really my thing. I think I only have a lanyard on one folding knife. If I have them on anything, it's really going to be more for fixed blades. But you know, it's just something to consider. Now, I really do want to say that the action on this knife is ridiculously good thanks to caged ceramic bearings, just like the custom knife. Now, the biggest difference I want to say that sets it apart from Gerry's custom is the use of the frame lock, which does have a removable titanium lock bar insert, and you can actually see that screwed in right here. Let me see if I can get a little bit more of an angle so you can view it. Yeah, probably not. Okay, well, in any case, they do have a titanium lock bar insert, okay? And I mean, as far as offering two versions of this knife, I really feel like MBK did the right thing in offering two versions. Is I really like a carbon fiber version for, like, say like a larger office EDC style carry knife, and I feel that the full titanium model is better suited for a casual Friday, you know, or general EDC knife, and you are gonna feel a lot more confident with the hard usage on something like this with a full titanium handle than just the titanium on one side and then the slab of carbon fiber with no liner on the other. Excuse me. Now, both are designed with portal style handles. Basically, you have those holes drilled into the presentation side, which do, you know, provide like kind of aesthetics, a little bit of flair, and you know, it reduces the weight a little bit, but it really doesn't sacrifice the utility. There are some knives where you feel like, okay, this just doesn't look nice, and when you know, you feel into the holes, you feel like maybe there's some hot spots, like they weren't unfinished, that they're unfinished. These are not. That's not the case with these. They actually feel really good in the hand. And when you do rub your fingers on them, they do feel like they've gone in, they've really machined it. It's just something that I happen to see from that, okay? In the hand, I mean, I feel like based on, you know, medium-sized hands, that I can get a nice secure grip on the knife, and I found that the jimping that is on the raised spine makes it really easy to provide some force when you're slicing through media, like, you know, cardboard, and that sort of thing. So speaking of ergos, while the flipper tab is pretty large, okay, and I'll show it to you here right now, okay, yeah, pretty large, the knife curves in you know, a manner in which when it's in the pocket, it really doesn't peck you. And the reason why I say that is you'll see it has a nice little curvature here, you know, and it shows off the booty a little bit, so where, you know, when it's in the pocket, okay, because it's going to be in the pocket like this, all right, when you're reaching for it, you're not going to feel that that flipper, and if you do, it's going to be ever so slightly, and you don't feel anything rough over here. Everything is nice and finely machined. You don't feel any sharp edges anywhere on this knife, okay? I mean, and I mean, just to go ahead and give just a little bit more kudos to Monterey Bay Knives for the design of the flipper itself. It's made in a way, I mean, due to the size, I mean, just the action while flicking the knife open is almost effortless as a result. And it's not really just with the titanium model, okay, which, by the way, I mean, you saw how smooth that was and just bringing it back. This is the carbon fiber model. I mean, look at that action, okay? go ahead and just take it off and just look at the bearings and how they oh, that action. Let me just do just a few more times. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, so pros on this knife and what I felt I really liked about it. I'll go ahead and put it this way because it looks kind of cool like that. Okay, so as far as pros, okay, let's talk about this. I like how it feels secure in the pocket with regards to the pocket clip. It's not a deep carry clip, but it's nice and secure, and you know, you feel that you have I don't know, I think for its size, for it being you know, as large as it is, it's not a very wide knife in the pocket, even considering the flipper on it. So it's something that I thought felt, you know, pretty secure in the pocket, especially with the pocket clip on there. You don't feel like it's one of those that are going to slide out of the pocket at any time. The action is fantastic. You know, it's very good opening and closing action. You know, obviously quality steel in the bearings. You know, you have the M390 on both versions, so again, quality steel. You have your choice in carbon fiber or full titanium. It's ideal for all-around use, you know, and with the titanium one, you do have something that's a little bit better built for some tougher tasks. So it's not something that you're going to basically be using as pocket bling if you end up just buying this one. Sure, you can do that, but I mean, for $225, I want to know that this thing works. And I can tell you, I mean, based on the aesthetics, and you know, the ergos on the knife, even the shape of the blade and the recurve, you're gonna get some really good slicing tasks out of this, especially with the titanium version. Okay, so speaking of which, it is a very nice slicey blade shape. You know, recurves aren't something that are for everybody, but I'm a big fan of the bench blade North Fork, so this one called out to me naturally. And I mean, I just feel like with the blade shape, it almost feels like it's less effort to get that nice slice due to the belly that's here, and then just how it kind of like tapers down here. I'm a fan of the recurve. Okay, I'll be completely honest. So another thing I really like about this, and I had mentioned this earlier, is that the presentation side, if you look, pretty much on both sides, the only thing that you get on the blade itself, you know, as far as advertising, is the, you know, the 3-letter MBK logo, okay? And then, yeah, McGinnis on the spine on both. But on the presentation side, completely sterile blade. And this isn't because that they are prototypes. This is because of the fact that that's how they were designed. And I like that a lot about these knives, okay? And one other thing to consider, if you are buying the full titanium version, you essentially have a full slab on titanium on both sides, and not just the clip side, that you can anodize, okay? So you can choose to anodize this entire thing, and I can only imagine some of the awesome designs that you can come up with, you know, with a little bit of heat anodization using this knife, okay? So now that I got the goods out of the way, the pros, let me get some of the cons out of the way. And not necessarily bad, but things that could use a little bit of attention, maybe some work. First, glaring detail, and this is for my lefties out there. You're gonna have to get used to carrying like a righty if you want this, and most knives that are out on the market. It's unfortunate to say that, but it is what it is. And as for the recurve that I had mentioned earlier, not everybody's a huge fan of the recurve because of the fact that you do have a different way of sharpening these that just a standard, you know, clip point, a spear point, that sort of thing, or, you know, draw point blades, they just do not have difficulty with. Now, if you want to just touch up, you know, the edge itself, just to kind of maintain the edge, something like a Spyderco Sharpmaker is very good at doing that. And there are companies that come up with recurve specific parts for sharpening knives, like I believe KME has curved stones that are specific for sharpening recurve, so that is something to consider. But you know, recurve isn't exactly something that everybody is really interested in sharpening, because it doesn't sharpen the same way. You're not going to get the same even edge if you sharpen it the same way you do most other knives, you know, that would have, like, say, a sheep's foot or a spear point, that sort of thing. Okay, so something to consider. And I do understand that this is completely aesthetic, and the truth is, this is a staple of Gerry's knives, but I'm not the biggest fan of the clip. Like, I'm usually, you know, more of a fan of like a deep carry clip, like something you would have on, you know, your Benchmade knife, you know, or I don't know. It's just really, I'm being pedantic here when I say it, but his knife clips are cool. It's just I don't know. They function well in what they're made for. It's unique. It's just not really my thing. Okay, it's really more aesthetic than anything else. Okay, it is what it is. And the only other thing is I felt like the flipper could be a little bit smaller. This actually flips out extremely easy. So a flipper reduction on this guy is, I mean, it's not necessarily out of the question. You know, I mean, it's very good knife. I mean, the action, you know, opening it and closing it, I could do this and fidget with it all freaking day, you know. And it's not because of the fact that you know, the flipper, you know, adjusting the flipper would cause a problem. It really wouldn't. I mean, really nice knife. So those are just my cons, if you will. Okay, so you know, basically just kind of as a brief synopsis, there's no lefty carry. You know, you have the recurve that's a little bit more difficult to sharpen for the novice or somebody that's not used to recurves. I'm not really feeling the clip, and that's something aesthetic. Okay, and it's got a really large flipper, and you know, in my opinion, it could probably be a little bit smaller. Okay, so what are my final thoughts on this? Okay, well, like I had mentioned at the beginning of the review, MBK has done a great job scaling down the cost of a custom style knife, okay, without sacrificing quality, and this is yet another example of that. Okay, so for someone that has always wanted to own a knife that looks like $1 million, but wanted, or in this case 2,000, and but wanted to use it without the guilt of scratching up, you know, an expensive custom, this is a really good option. And in all honesty, the design makes it a very good slicer, regardless of the fact that it's almost twice as thick behind the edge of your Spyderco Delica, or if I'm not mistaken, even the Spyderco Dragonfly 2. Okay, these things are ridiculously good slicers, but the fact of the matter is, even though this is a little bit thicker of a blade, the recurve and the blade geometry actually makes it a very good slicer. Something to consider. So, I mean, and you know, like I said, the reason behind it is the recurve blade shape, but it comes with the caveat that you need to know how to sharpen recurve blades in order to get that nice, evenly sharp edge. Luckily, with something, you know, like the Spyderco Sharp Maker, like I said before, it's easily going to touch up the edge to get you back to work. But if you plan on reprofiling the blade, consider that this knife will take a little bit more work to you know, get it back up to where it was, or even reprofile, you know, than the average blade due to its shape. And this falls under the larger end of blades that I would ADC. And honestly, at first glance, I was a little hesitant to carry it because of that. But I am glad that I did, because it turns out I actually like the knife much more than I expected as a result. So, you know, releases like this put knife makers like Gerry McGinnis on my radar, when in reality I've been so used to just standard production knives that I really haven't paid any, you know, mind to people like Gerry before. And I guess that may be because of the fact that he has knives selling for $2,000 and up. But again, that's where a company like Monterey Bay Knives comes in to save the day. And that being said, if you have the means to reprofile the blade and you have no issue with carrying and using a knife with a recurve, I would say that either one is a definite buy. And at its current pricing, you're looking at paying just a little bit more than 10% of what Gerry's builds cost. And you are going to feel at a loss with the materials used, whether you pick up the carbon fiber or the titanium version, okay? That is basically what my final thoughts are. I like them both. Personally, if I had to carry one, I would carry the carbon fiber version. I think that this thing is freaking sick looking, but in all honesty, I would not be at a loss if all I had available was the titanium version. In fact, I actually like this one a lot, but I even feel like from using this one more, the action has kind of you know, been tuned up a little bit better. I haven't done anything to the pivot, and I mean, just on both of these, on bearings, these things are just freaking fantastic. But I will say that I feel like between the two, from using them more, I don't know if maybe it's because I use the carbon fiber version more, but the action on this guy is just perfect for the kind of knife it is. Now, that being said, okay, this is the closing of the video. And I highly recommend you guys check this out. If you get a chance to be able to hold one of these in your hand, do so. You may actually fall in love with it. And don't thank me. Thank Gerry McGinnis and Monterey Bay Knives. Now, as far as the video, you do want to thank Apex, the Apex Pass Around, because they were responsible for putting this video together for you guys. If it wasn't for them, I would not have access to these knives. So I just wanted to say a huge thank you to both Monterey Bay Knives and the Apex Pass Around. So if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and reach out to me via my Instagram account. It's instagram.com/dailycarrysolutions, or you can contact me via my website using the contact us button at dailycarrysolutions.com. Thank you so much for watching, and just remember, guys, whichever version you choose to carry, whether it is the carbon fiber or the titanium versions, just remember, if you EDC, make a DCS. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.